Hello, welcome to Fabulous Food. Today we're going to be making choux buns, or profiteroles really, but the actual base is a choux bun and then we can turn it into a profiterole with our cream and our chocolate. So the really important thing for this lesson is to be prepared because everything has to happen quite quickly. So set your oven to 200 degrees C or 180 degrees C fan oven. Get yourself a flat baking tray and a piece of baking parchment or greaseproof paper for later. And then you need to get all of your ingredients ready before you start. So I've got 50 grams of butter in my saucepan. I've got 150 ml of water in a jug, 70 grams of plain flour weighed out ready, and 2 large eggs which I can just mix together when we need them. So first of all, I'm going to add the water to the butter and I'm going to bring it to the boil. So the butter's got to melt and the water has got to come up to 100 degrees as a boil. So I'll do that first. So you just need to give it a gentle stir every now and again to stop the butter from burning, sticking to the bottom. My butter's nearly melted now, but my water's not boiling yet. So remember, boiling is when the bubbles are going really fast. Simmering is just gentle bubbles, but we want rapid boil today. So just give it another stir, make sure all the butter is melted into the water as it's coming up to the boil. So we're going to, it's called shoot the flour into the butter and water, like that. Remove it from the heat and beat it. You need to put some elbow grease into it. Incorporate all the flour and mix all the lumps out of the choux pastry. So you should get a nice smooth lump like that with no flecks of white in it because all the flour has been mixed in. And then just spread it around the base of the saucepan to give it a greater surface area to cool down. And I'm going to set my timer for 5 minutes to let it cool before I put the eggs in. So you can hear my timer going off. This has had 5 minutes to cool down. I've whisked my eggs, or beaten my eggs to mix the yolk and the whites together. I'm going to tip that in now. And I'm going to mix the two together to form my choux. It's a bit slimy to start with. Just need to be gentle until the eggs begin to incorporate so you don't splash it over the edge of the saucepan, and then you can beat it a little bit harder. You might need to break the lumps up against the side of the saucepan with the back of the spoon. So mine's still actually quite lumpy, so I'm going to switch to a whisk and give it a whisk round, and that should help the egg to incorporate. That's better. So you might need to do that too. You just have to be resourceful and use the technique that works. Just use my fork to scrape it out of my whisk. I don't want to waste all of that choux pastry. It's quite sticky. Just collect it all together now in the corners of the saucepan. That's fine there. So now I'm going to take 2 teaspoons and put dollops of this mixture onto my baking tray. So you can pipe it, you could put it into a piping bag, but when we're doing it at school we don't have time for that. So this is the method that we would use at school. So you want a teaspoon of mixture, pop it on the tray like that. Don't put them too close together because they are going to spread and rise. Make sure they're all the same size so they cook evenly. So I've used up all my mixture now. I've got 12 on this baking tray and 6 more on another baking tray. So when we do this at school you can only have 1 tray each because we've not got enough shelves in the oven, but at home it obviously doesn't matter. So I'm going to pop these in the oven now for between 25 and 30 minutes until they're a lovely golden brown colour and well risen. So I've taken the profiteroles out of the oven. They had 28 minutes and they're a lovely golden brown colour now. So I'm going to leave them to cool down and then show you how to fill them. So I've left my profiteroles for 15 minutes and they're nice and cold now. And I'm going to use a bread knife to cut each one in half. So bridge hold over the top and just cut down and open them out like that. So you can leave them joined like a little hinge to keep the tops and the bottoms slightly connected. It's easier to put them back together that way. So now we're on to step 7 in your recipe book, which is to whip the cream. So you need a nice big bowl, 300 ml of double cream, a bit of a shake, mix it up, tip it into your bowl, and then we'll do the classic Mrs. Halloran trick, which is to leave the pot standing like that for a couple of minutes until the rest of the cream runs down in the pot, and then we'll get a little bit extra. Like that. Magic. Good trick, Mrs. Halloran. Thank you. Now you can either whisk this by hand if you're feeling exceptionally strong and energetic, or you can use a hand mixer. So I'm going to use a hand mixer, so it's going to be quite noisy. And I'm going to keep mixing until it gets nice and thick. So at this stage you can see the trail where the mixer has been when it's on, but it's not thick enough yet. So now you can see the cream is much thicker. You can see it's clinging to the beaters. I'm just going to mix it just a tiny little bit more. That's made it nice and thick, but I've not over whisked it, so it's not gone lumpy. And take your whisks out of your mixer, give them a tap on the side of the bowl to get the rest of the cream out. And now we're ready to fill our profiteroles. So I've got a spatula ready so that I can scrape the cream down the side of the bowl. I don't want to waste any. I might need that later. I've got 2 teaspoons. I'm going to get a teaspoon of cream and then I'm going to put it in my profiterole. And I'm just going to work around them all, putting 1 teaspoon of cream in each one. And now I just need to pop the lids on. They look a little bit like seashells bursting out there. When we make profiteroles at school, Mrs. Halloran and I would actually do this next stage for you because we run out of time in the lesson, and this is the lovely melted chocolate stage. So we would anticipate you using 100 grams of chocolate. So I've got 100 grams in there in a jug, which I'm going to melt in my microwave, but you may prefer to use this method where you put the chocolate into a glass bowl and you put it over a saucepan of simmering water, so that's just off the boil. So remember, gentle bubbles, not rapid bubbles. You place the bowl over like that and stir the chocolate, and the heat from the water and the steam will melt the chocolate, but you mustn't let the water touch the bottom of the bowl because otherwise the chocolate will seize up. And a word of warning, if you're using Cadbury's chocolate, don't use the microwave method because the new recipe that they're using doesn't work in the microwave and it just goes horrible and grainy and lumpy. So I'm going to use the microwave method, so I'm going to pop that in the microwave probably for bursts of 30 seconds and then give it a stir each time. And I'm going to make sure I use a tea towel over the handle in case the handle of my jug gets hot. So my chocolate's melted now, and it actually took 3 lots of 30 seconds to get to the right consistency. It's very important that you don't set your microwave going for long periods of time because the chocolate will just burn and it will smell horrible and you won't be able to use it. So my chocolate's melted. I've put my profiteroles on my serving plate, nice and close together, so when I pour the chocolate over, it's not going to go all over the plate. I want to hit as many of the profiteroles as I can. I've checked the handle of my jug and it's not too hot. So now you can either use a spoon or a spatula and drizzle over like that. That's quite pretty. Or you could just pour it straight on. It depends how patient or impatient you are. I think I'm going to go with this method. You want to make sure that they all have the same amount of chocolate on, so there are no arguments at tea time as to who's having which profiteroles. There, I think I've just about used all the chocolate up, and I'm sure that when you make these at home you'll enjoy scraping the jug out and licking the spatula. So these profiteroles need to be stored in the fridge because they've got fresh cream in them. We hope you get on well. Please send us some photographs of your profiteroles. We look forward to seeing them. Goodbye.